I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
I don't need, I can't stand no minute man. I don't want no minute man. Ooh, here's your chance, be a man, take my hand, understand. I don't want no minute man.
You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Shout out to Missy Misdemeanor Elliott celebrating her birthday today. Happy birthday, Missy. A musical genius there. If you've ever had a chance to attend a Missy Misdemeanor Elliott concert, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, run, don't walk. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the things, all the platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up. While I'm on the topic of birthdays, let me also wish a happy birthday to Earl Folks. He is one of the co-founders of DC Black Pride, until recently served as the president CEO of the Center for Black Equity. He is celebrating his birthday today, and he has been such a critical leader to the Black LGBTQ movement. And so we see you, we recognize you, we wish you a happy birthday, Earl Folks. Now, look, this has been a very, very busy news day. But we are breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. We're separating the fact from the fiction. And we're also on Diddy Verdict Watch. That's what we're on, Diddy Verdict Watch. Because we know that there are reports that jurors have reached a partial verdict in the Sean Combs trial, but will keep deliberating on one count. And so apparently there's a verdict they've reached on 4 of the counts. There's still no consensus on that remaining count. And so if there is a verdict in the Diddy trial, we will bring you that information live as soon as it becomes available. We have Justin from the Shade Room, who's on standby in the event that news breaks. We'll be sure to bring it to you with one of the experts that's actually been monitoring this case from the very, very beginning. Now, it's time for your National News Roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, CNBC is reporting that Google is promoting AI mode on their homepage doodle. That's right, the Google Doodle. You know, like when you go to google.com and you see those really cool images that may pop up, and you know, if it's Black History Month, if it's Pride Month, whatever it is, you see some sort of recognition of someone. Well, the promotion of AI mode on Google Doodle, it comes as the tech company makes efforts to expose more users to its latest AI features amid pressure from AI startups. That includes OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, Anthropic, which makes Claude, and Perplexity AI, which bills itself as an AI-powered answer machine. A Google spokesperson said that the placement of the AI mode on the company's homepage is just a fun promo. Just a fun promo. That's all they're saying, as opposed to typical Google Doodles that celebrate history and culture. AI mode is Google's chatbot-like experience for complex user questions. The company began displaying AI mode alongside its search results page in March. And so if you're on the Google page, you might want to check it out. Moving along, to all you Lululemon fans out there and Costco fans out there, pay attention. The Associated Press is reporting that Lululemon has filed a lawsuit against Costco that accuses the wholesale club operator of selling lower price duplicates of some of its popular athleisure clothing. Lululemon Athletica claims in a lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court in California that Costco has, quote, unlawfully traded on its reputation, its goodwill, and sweat equity by selling unauthorized and unlicensed apparel that uses knockoff, infringing on versions of their patent. And so Lululemon ain't so happy. Can you imagine like Lululemon and Costco getting in a fight? That wasn't on my bingo card. Was that on your bingo card? I would not have picked the Costco and Lululemon to say, let's scrap, meet me in the parking lot. I wouldn't have guessed it. But we'll keep our eye on where that goes. It's so funny. Like, so Lululemon, Costco, and Kirkland get in the fight. Who you gonna back up? I'm just being silly. Moving along, Meghan Markle, she launches a thoughtful collection of wines. Look, with all this breaking news, feels like every hour on the hour, get your wine wherever you can get it. And Meghan Markle is saying you can get it from me. The Guardian is reporting that the Duchess of Sussex has announced her latest foray into lifestyle branding, with Meghan expanding her As Ever product line to feature a thoughtful collection of wines. And in her press release that she sent out earlier this week, she described the first wine to become available as a light, fresh, and effortlessly celebratory 2023 Napa Valley Rosé, thoughtfully curated by Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. Who doesn't like a good rosé? And let me just give myself up right now because it's summertime. I really love a frozen drink. And ain't nothing like a rosé frosé. You had a rosé frosé recently? Treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. I'm telling you, you'll thank me later. Moving along, let me tell you somebody that President Trump is not thanking, and that is Elon Musk. USA Today is reporting that President Trump says that he'll have to take a look at deporting Elon Musk as their feud reignites. President Trump said that he would look at having Elon Musk deported to his native South Africa as their rift reignited and reached new heights amid the billionaire tech entrepreneur's latest wave of criticism of Trump's tax and budget bill. Trump made the threat while speaking to reporters earlier today, just hours after the president's early morning Truth Social post, where he said he might order the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, that Musk previously led, to review the billions in contracts that his companies receive. Trump's attacks came after Musk, the world's richest man, resumed his vocal opposition to Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, and a flurry of posts on X. It included warnings from Musk that he would boost the midterm primary challenges to defeat Republican lawmakers who vote for the legislation. Now, that's tough talk. I will believe it when I see it. It's tough talk, though. It creates lots of clicks and views. Just saying. When we come forward, we are going beyond some of the most important headlines of the day with former U.S. Special Representative and co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice, Desiree Cormier-Smith, will be joining us to talk about the CBS exclusive that the U.S. is holding detainees from Asia, Africa, Europe at Guantanamo Bay. They're being held in facilities at Guantanamo Bay. That is happening today. And we wouldn't have known it had it not been for this exclusive report from CBS News. We'll also make sense out of that sort of wacky Oval Office signing last week. Y'all remember that with the reporter, the Black reporter, and the heads of state from the Congo and from Rwanda. Yeah, we're gonna dig into that and more when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Why, thank you. Yeah.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Discover the 4th of July sale at Target. Save 20% on clothing and swimwear for women, select cookies with Target Circle, and up to 50% off Sun Squad sporting goods. Get ready for a fireworks-worthy celebration with patriotic cookies, fun sports gear, and of course, spectacular fits. The deal's in July 5th, so hurry and get 20% off apparel, select cookies with Target Circle, and 50% off Sun Squad sports gear, only at Target. Restrictions apply.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests as we effort to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I'm really delighted to welcome back to the show Desiree Cormier-Smith. She is co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. She's also the former U.S. Special Representative for Racial Justice at the U.S. State Department. Desiree, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. First things first, I saw this headline reported by CBS News, and I had to take a breath. I had to take a breath because you remember the Obama years. You remember when it was such a big deal that, we were lifting the embargo with Cuba. Mm-hmm. And that we were beginning to reset, very early stages of beginning to reset the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba. I actually remember being in Cuba later of the same week that President Obama made that historic visit to Cuba. And, we're not that old. Right. And so to see the pendulum swing from the promise of diplomatic relations in Cuba to what looks like the turning back the clock. I mean, essentially, the Trump administration is reopening Guantanamo. We were trying to wind things down, and we were trying to close Guantanamo, and came really close. But it seems as if the Trump administration is doing quite the opposite. And more importantly, they're making more progress under the radar than we thought.
And spending a lot of money to send folks to Guantanamo. As they, as folks are about to cut Medicare and Medicaid, the Department of Defense in April reported having spent $21 million just to fly a few dozen folks, undocumented immigrants, to Guantanamo Bay. That's $26,000 per flight hour. Can you imagine all of the things we could actually do with that kind of money? So, it's, as you noted, it's going under the radar. And this is why I'm so glad you brought it up, because there are so many things happening in the foreign policy world that is not getting attention because there's so much going on domestically. And we have to pay attention to what is going on in foreign policy.
And we have to pay attention to this administration's interest in suspending habeas corpus.
Absolutely.
For folks who are less familiar, connect the dots between what the suspension of habeas corpus can look like in a place like Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, when it comes to folks who are accused, of criminal activity, and what that looks like for folks in LA, who may have their rights trampled on by local law enforcement, or these days, ICE agents, or even the military.
Right, or even the military. And this is why the premise that somehow the ICE raids, that immigration is not a Black issue, is completely false, right? It's completely false. Black people are immigrants too. There are plenty of Black folks coming from Africa, from the Caribbean, from Latin America, because there are lots of Black folks across Latin America and Central America that are also being subject to being taken off the street by masked men and being deported without due process. And with the removal of temporary protective status from Haitians, that should concern every Black person, if they weren't concerned already, because, everyone should have been against what's happening to human beings across this country, being ripped away from their families, being abducted off the street by masked men. But if that wasn't enough for you, if you didn't feel like it impacted you directly and you are a Black person, the removal of temporary protective status from Haitians should scare you, because that means that a Black American who's, is the descendant of enslaved persons could be mistaken, quote unquote, mistaken for a Haitian immigrant and detained off the street by masked men without any kind of due process and sent to Guantanamo Bay.
I mean, Desiree, I'm so glad that you're making this point. I have been saying this as often as I can, on air and off air, that, we can't assume that the government is going to get it right 100% of the time.
That's right.
And
no
so
matter who's in office,
whether we're talking about Trump or Biden or George H.W., government, like any complex matrix organization, ain't going to score perfect 100. And so what happens when you have folks who are wrongfully detained, who are not given their due process, right? Whenever you get detained by a police officer, for example, what do? They read you your Miranda rights. They say to you, or at least they're supposed to remind you that you have the right to remain silent. Not the preference, not you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. And you have the right to have legal representation, even if you can't afford it.
Right.
Right. There's a due process. But when we allow law enforcement, or heaven forbid, we allow the government to be judge, jury, and executioner, right? We get into a lot of trouble. And so, we don't know right now how many American citizens were in the wrong place at the wrong time, got swept up, and now they're in some foreign country that is not their home.
Right. I mean, and I think this administration showed us that even when they make mistakes, they will not admit it and they will not do anything to correct it. Right. So the example of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the El Salvadorian man who lived in actually not far from me in Maryland, who is married to a U.S. citizen who had legal status in the United States. The administration admitted that he was deported due to administrative error. At that point, they could have said, this was an error, we will bring him back. But instead, they doubled down and claimed all these other things that, were the reasons why it justified his removal and detention in a faraway camp in El Salvador without due process. And it wasn't until judges, senators, Congress, media, the people really stayed focused on this one person's case and the unjust nature of that case, did they then take the steps to remedy it. And even then, they say he's still going to be detained. So that should concern everyone. And it goes back to your point that governments will not get it right all the time. And I will say that as a former public servant, as someone who worked for the federal government, obviously we strive to get it right all the time. But it should concern everyone that this administration doesn't seem to always want to get it right. And then B, when they are shown that they have gotten something wrong, they are not willing to admit that mistake and take the steps to correct it.
According to this exclusive CBS News report, again, on the U.S. holding detainees from Asia, from Africa, and Europe at Guantanamo Bay immigration facilities, according to two U.S. officials, they said that most of those detained at the base are considered to be high-risk detainees. Again, operative word, most of those detained at the base are considered to be high-risk detainees, who are defined by immigration authorities as individuals with violent or otherwise serious criminal records, histories, and disruptive behavior or alleged gang ties. Mm-hmm. So that is a pretty bold and serious move for somebody who is there on allegations.
That's right.
None of these people have been convicted of anything.
That's right.
People are suspected. Right. And this is part of the problem, because if they're able to do this with them, right, then this means none of us are safe.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it just reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. No one is free until all of us are free.
That's right.
And that's why I do this work, globally, because it is absolutely interconnected to what we do, what we have here at home. Right. And so you said it perfectly, right? When someone is being detained in another country without due process, without the appropriate, protections that we are accustomed to here in the United States, that should scare every single American. Trump has already said that he's considering, doing this for American citizens next.
Yeah. And I think the question is, are we going to act like the United States of America? Are we going to act like the raggedy states of America? Right? Because how often have we heard from both Democrats and Republicans, we're a nation of laws.
Right.
That is what makes us different from so many other countries around the world that shoot first, ask questions later.
Right.
Lock people up, ask questions later. Right. We pride ourselves, we call ourselves an exceptional nation, in part because we are this nation of laws that says that people are entitled to their day in court. They're entitled to present their case, right? And we are seeing not just the erosion of that, the rapid erosion of this.
That's correct. And, albeit imperfect, it was a system that is rare, right? It's not global, right? This is not the global norm to have due process, to have the presumption of innocence before you're proven guilty, to have your day in court, to have the right to legal representation, even if you cannot afford it. These are all things that I think Americans took for granted and are quickly realizing that they're not permanent fixtures.
What do you make of the fact that on this day where we're learning about this exclusive report from CBS News, that the president also happens to be doing a site visit at what they're calling the Alligator Alcatraz in Florida? I caught some of the press conference that the president and Governor DeSantis and Secretary Kristi Noem and even Representative Byron Donalds participated in. The tone felt gleeful that there is this detention center that's being set up that will be surrounded by an alligator Alcatraz. What do you make of that, particularly on a day where we're hearing this news about Guantanamo?
Yeah, it makes me sick to my stomach because, like you said, they just seem so gleeful about it, right? And the cruelty is just something that I hope we never normalize. Right. I hope we never normalize. And I also want to say, and I recognize I was an appointee of the Biden-Harris administration, but I also want to lay some blame on that administration for not moving as quickly as we should have to do certain things, including the closure of Guantanamo. There was a whole office, a special representative, special envoy at the State Department charged with closing Guantanamo Bay. And, it took a lot of political will. And unfortunately, they weren't able to fully cross the finish line to fully close it. But I often think if they were successful in that, if they had the full backing of the White House to really close it, and there wasn't fear of what Republicans would say about national security, maybe we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in right now, where we're wasting dozens of millions of taxpayer dollars on sending a couple of dozen of alleged criminal, illegal, or undocumented people here in the United States. It just boggles my mind that this is where we are today.
Boggles your mind. It boggles my mind. It boggles the minds of our leaders, learners, and listeners. But when we come forward, we're going to switch gears. I want to talk about something that Trump did just last week that didn't get nearly enough attention. He signed a major rare earth mineral deal in Africa, what folks should know. And again, we're going to separate the fact from the fiction. We're talking with Desiree Cormier-Smith. She's co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. And you are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries is reacting after the Senate narrowly passed President Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill.
Hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, and community-based health clinics will be unable to provide services.
The spending bill now heads back to the House for a vote. A former Black employee is suing General Mills, claiming he was fired for reporting racially offensive fun facts about Black history flyers at work. After he shared contacts of others offended, he was placed on leave and fired. And Black New York Attorney General Letitia James won a court order blocking the Trump administration from dismantling the Department of Health and Human Services. James and 19 other attorneys general sued after Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced a restructure that led to 10,000 federal layoffs. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Delays on the 405 in Culver City, loading up at Venice Boulevard northbound all the way to the 5 merge into Sylmar. And let's also head out to Baldwin Park. It's a crash 10 east connected to the 605 north, partially blocking lanes of that connector. Delays away from Baldwin Avenue. And in Anaheim, a wreck is wrapped up 91 eastbound before Tustin Avenue. Delays still loading up at Kramer LaSalle, slow ahead to Green River.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies, offering national LTE coverage and no subscription ever. Perfect for instant contact with an aging parent. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com and you'll get an extra 60% off, free UPS shipping, and add code radio for an extra 5% off.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Oklahoma City Thunder guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is now the highest paid player in NBA history. The Thunder gave SGA a 4-year contract extension worth $285 million. SGA's annual salary of $71.2 million is the highest ever for any NBA player. To give you some context, the most Michael Jordan made in a single season was $35 million. SGA is in a very rare category. He's one of only 4 NBA players to lead the league in scoring, to be voted most valuable player, and to win the championship in the same season. Jordan did it 4 times. Shaquille O'Neal did it in 2000 with the Lakers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it in 1971 when he was with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Dodgers and Angels are back in action tonight after an off day Monday. The Dodgers are at home against the Chicago White Sox. The Angels are in Atlanta to begin a 6-game road trip. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drum.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me.
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and always a pleasure to welcome back to the show our special contributor, Desiree Cormier-Smith. She is a co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. She's also a former U.S. Special Representative for Racial Justice at the U.S. State Department. If you could even imagine that such a role actually existed at the U.S. State Department, that's just another example of how far we have shifted away from those values in just 6 months.
Yeah.
Just 6 months.
I know. It's crazy. I mean, not only was there a special representative for racial equity and justice, there was also a special envoy for LGBTQI plus human rights. Imagine that. And now, not only is Secretary Rubio proposing to essentially dismantle the entire human rights infrastructure of the State Department, do away with all the special envoys and special representatives, but what will remain of the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor will promote quote unquote Western values. What does that mean?
I have a feeling that it is divorced from our history.
Absolutely.
It's at odds with the history of so many people that tune into the show, that tune into the station. Wow.
And there's some scary stuff going on again. Like I said, there's scary stuff going on in the foreign policy space at the State Department in particular, which is why I co-founded the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice to talk about it and to raise the alarm with Americans, because this is being done in our name, right? Are we okay with promoting Western values with the notion that human rights are not universal, but are somehow only a European and American value? I mean, it's so deeply offensive and racist. It just, again, boggles my mind.
Yeah. I mean, and this is part of the reason why we love having you, join us as often as you can, to raise consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. I think this administration benefits whenever we give in to a sense of inevitability.
That's right.
Because the president wants it to happen, or just because he signs an executive order, that somehow, we have to comply with that. Right.
That's right.
But speaking of signing things, President Trump signed a major rare earth mineral deal in Africa. Just last week, he signed this major minerals agreement, as reported by Newsweek, with Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, as a part of a broader U.S.-mediated ceasefire that's been touted as a potential turning point in efforts to end decades of violence in the region. How involved has the United States, and particularly the Trump administration, how involved have they been in this so-called ceasefire between the Republic of the Congo and Rwanda?
Well, as you mentioned, this has unfortunately been going on for decades, right? And this is an incredibly tragic humanitarian crisis. And so I know that the Biden administration was deeply involved in not only trying to secure peace, but also in providing desperately needed humanitarian assistance to the people who always bear the brunt of conflict, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Trump administration had been involved and had taken a keen interest because of what Congo sits on, right? Congo, as we know, the Democratic Republic of Congo is the largest producer of cobalt in the world. And it also has the largest reserves of coltan, which is a major mineral used in the production of smartphones, electric vehicles, and other electronics that we in the United States are now incredibly dependent upon. So, and we know that this administration has a foreign policy that is completely transactional. So I am actually not surprised that they took a keen interest in Congo. And I will give credit where it's due. Like I said on the last episode, I'm anti-war. So I'm always about ending conflicts. I'm always about peace, but it has to be a real peace. It has to be a lasting peace, and it cannot be a one-sided deal. And so that would be my concern, right? We know that this administration is getting something out of this.
Mhm.
And it is Trump was not shy about that, saying that they're getting, we're going to get all kinds of rare earth minerals. But I would just want to ensure, and I hope that the deal benefits the people of Congo.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the outstanding question. I mean, look, President Trump is trying to counterbalance the grip that China has in the region by, not being shy about this competition for critical minerals. The president's been pushing for the U.S. to reduce its reliance on China's control of rare earth mineral processing. We can't bring about the golden age in America, as President Trump says. We can't win the race to lead the world in artificial intelligence if our access to these rare earth minerals that, as you mentioned, are critical to cell phones and EV batteries and all that stuff. If we can't counterbalance China's influence and their grip on these rare earth minerals, then China really sort of owns the future there. And so, I get from the 30,000 foot level sort of where the Trump administration is looking to go as a geopolitical leader. But to your point, if we are not conscious of, making sure that countries in Africa benefit from these deals, do you fear that we may very well be watching sort of the next iteration of colonialism?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. The extraction of Africa's people and resources is a tale as old as time. And, I would hope that today's leaders across the continent would be willing to stand up to any American president that tries and impedes on that sovereignty. And, going back to your point about, the Trump administration wanting to counter China in this space, they say they want to do that. But if they really wanted to counter China, they would not have dismantled one of our best, most effective and cost-effective tools to counter China's influence across the African continent and across the world, which was USAID, the United States Agency for International Development. The overnight destruction of USAID not only will cost lives and has cost lives, right? People have died. There have been documentations of children, of orphans, of mothers across the continent, in Sudan and other places that were dependent on life-saving care that USAID was providing. But because of Elon Musk and this administration and their cruelty, they just shut it off overnight. Those people have died. Those human beings have died. They have names and they mattered.
You're absolutely right. They had names and they mattered. And I remember being in DC when they were literally ripping the letters off of the building. I mean, it felt like I was caught up in a movie. They were ripping the letters USAID, off of the Ronald Reagan building.
Yep, gleefully.
It's a recurring theme.
And again, I think it's because the cruelty is the point.
Yeah, I mean, having a government that doesn't recognize our humanity in policy and practice and procedure.
That's right.
In respect for our legal rights, let alone our human rights. This is a part of how we got here.
Exactly. And, going back to this peace deal between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, the other thing that concerns me that I think is worth watching is how it will be implemented, but also the fact that it lacks a couple of key things. One, most importantly, and this was called out by several human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, that peace deal says nothing about past. It gives impunity to past injustices. So there's no kind of justice for the victims, for the people who have borne the brunt of this conflict for decades. So that sends a dangerous message, right? Because it's like People have committed all these war crimes and atrocities, but there's a peace deal now, so they're fine. There's no accountability for the rape, for the murder, for all of the injustices that have happened. The other thing that concerns me is that because Rubio is gutting the State Department's human rights policy infrastructure, and there is no USAID, and they have cut $3 billion of State Department grants, how are we going to support the humanitarian needs and the actual implementation of this peace deal? We don't have money because Trump is trying to take back any money that was already planted, that was already approved by Congress for fiscal year 2025, and his fiscal year 2026 budget slashes the State Department budget and zeroes out USAID. And then even if we had the money, we don't have the people anymore. The folks who worked at USAID and the folks that are expecting to get fired from the State Department, they are experts and they have decades of experience on not only working closely with civil society, but also on humanitarian needs and on how to manage and evaluate grants. That's a whole skill set. Somebody has to be trained on that so that we are ensuring that the money is being spent appropriately and in accordance with our laws. Without that expertise, even if they have the money, they're not going to know how to spend it.
That's right. That's
If
right.
you need proof, look at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. This quote unquote nonprofit humanitarian organization that the Trump administration just gave $30 million to. It is essentially a slaughterhouse, an additional point of where Gazans who are desperate for food, they're being killed because it's so ineffective. You can't just have former military contractors now all of a sudden do humanitarian aid. You have to have the expertise to know how to do that. And these people really don't.
It's kind of like having the National Guard on the street behaving like police officers. It's a different skill set. It's a different level of training. Desiree, I'm going to ask for you to stick with us just a few more minutes because while we've been on air, a U.S. judge, Reuters is reporting that a U.S. judge blocks Trump from ending temporary protective status for Haitians. A federal judge has rejected the Trump administration's bid to end temporary deportation protections and work permits for approximately 521,000 Haitian immigrants before the program's scheduled expiration date. We're going to get Desiree's immediate reaction to this and more. You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
JP Morgan Chase offers tips for the local business owners in 2025. Small business landscape is ever changing, and the Los Angeles market is no exception. A startup or legacy business, revisiting your missions, innovative offerings, and renew opportunities for growth and innovations. Program Business Coaching for Impact gives entrepreneurs access to expert guidance, helping you streamline operations, strategize your growth, and navigate complex challenges. Businesses with a clear sense of purpose can navigate any challenge effectively, but also build stronger customer loyalty. Visit chase.com/coaching for impact for more information. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely.
Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. It's about time for the quiet part out loud. And just while we've been on air, some breaking news. Reuters reporting that a U.S. judge has blocked Trump from ending temporary protective status for Haitians. This is something serious. A federal judge, and might I add, a George W. Bush appointee, today rejected the Trump administration's bid to end temporary deportation protections and work permits for approximately 521,000 Haitian immigrants before the program's scheduled expiration date. We're talking to Desiree Cormier-Smith, who is the former U.S. Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice at the U.S. State Department. She's now co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Desiree, what's your reaction to the news?
I mean, I'm glad. I think, it's good. It's a good thing, but I'm not a lawyer. Let me preface it by saying this. So I do wonder what the Supreme Court's decision last week, what impact that'll have on this, because remember, the Supreme Court just ruled last week that basically federal judges cannot block nationwide implementation of executive orders. And so while I'm relieved that this ruling came, I now wonder what that actually means. Does that only impact the people who were actual plaintiffs of this case in a specific district? Or is this somehow going to provide relief for the 550,000 Haitians who are living and working in the United States now with legal status?
Yeah, and this is a very big question. We know that the U.S. government is expected to appeal the decision. In a statement, Homeland Security spokesperson said that Haiti's TPS designation was granted following the 2010 earthquake in that country and was never intended as a de facto asylum program. They said, quotes, "The ruling delays justice and seeks to kneecap the president's constitutionally vested powers. We expect a higher court to vindicate us." And so a spokesperson for the Homeland Security Department really alluding to the same question that you've raised, which is, where does the Supreme Court stand on this? And by the way, the Supreme Court emergency docket, right? And so this is sort of the this has been really abused by the Trump Office of General Counsel, the Solicitor General, as sort of a workaround, right? I mean, oftentimes we're seeing the Supreme Court, make decisions in haste without, going through oral arguments and the typical rigmarole that they would go through in deciding a case. And so we end on a positive note, Desiree. Tell us, what is... I feel like I've grown 10 gray hairs just during this hour talking the state of our union. What is keeping you wrapped in your right mind in this moment?
Ooh, only God, because I'm a woman of faith, and without that faith, I don't know how I would stay sane and positive and somehow still joyful despite it all. So that is keeping me sane. And also, again, just being in community and finding joy in community and not letting them chip away at my joy, particularly is very important to me, particularly now that I have a son. So that is what I am focused on.
Yeah. I mean, point taken. I think this is just a reminder that, we may not be able to control for everything the government's doing. Of course, we can protest. Of course, lawyers can file litigation. There are tools at our disposal, but, we're not going to win every fight. We never have, right? But there is a power in being in community. There's a power in showing up for one another. There's a power in looking out for one another, right? And so, your faith, like my faith, teaches us to love thy neighbor.
Amen.
Your faith, like my faith, teaches us to be the Good Samaritan.
Amen.
Your faith, like my faith, says follow the golden rule.
Amen.
And so that's what I'm also leaning on in this moment, in case anybody is wondering. I know the news has been heavy, but it won't always be this way.
That's right. And I think it's also important to keep in perspective that our ancestors survived much worse. And if they gave up, we wouldn't be here.
That's right. Our ancestors, including your grandfather, the late Larry Aubrey.
May he rest in power. Yes,
May he
I miss him every day.
Absolutely. Our thanks to Desiree Cormier-Smith, co-founder of the Alliance for Diplomacy and Justice. Where can people go to tap in real quick?
Come to our website, www.theallianceforDiplomacyandjustice.org, and be on the lookout. I may have a piece in a local publication. I'm not going to say which one until it's printed, but really highlighting all the dangerous changes at the State Department and what Rubio is trying to do to undermine human rights and why that matters for all Americans.
We're going to be on the lookout for that. Our thanks to Desiree Cormier-Smith. And our thanks to The Village, helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day, including our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Brother Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Art, and of course, each and every one of you, our leaders, learners, and listeners. We curate this show every day with you in mind. It's our intention to take a peek behind the headlines, to separate the fact from the fiction, to elevate the voices of leaders on the front lines, people that are in the know, people that keep their eyes stayed on making a positive change in the world, and we will continue to do so. Remember, while we do that, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.